Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Shovel Knight. In the last part, we went through Tinker Knight stage, and now we're heading into Polar Knight stage, which, if you can't tell by the name and the visual aesthetic and the obvious ice on the ground, is our ice level. This game's ice physics, though, aren't much to worry about. You're slow to start when walking, you do slip and slide a little bit, but honestly, thanks to the pogo mechanic through the shovel drop, you don't have to worry about ice physics in this level as much as you do some other ones. There's bigger hazards to worry about in this stage, as we'll see later on. Now let's talk about Polar Knight's bio. Titanic and terrible, Polar Knight guards the stranded ship in the frozen south. A silent giant wielding a two-handed snow shovel, he is the largest and most brutish of the Order in No Quarter. Sometime in the past, Shovel Knight and Polar Knight have crossed shovels before. Pros? He wields the snow shovel, and he doesn't feel cold, but is considerate. Cons? He's apparently got an annoying laugh. It's like water torture. And that's apparently based off of one of the developers. To the point where on his sprite, as you'll see, if he's facing the right side of the screen, the left side of his face on the screen, from our perspective at least, he looks like he has a mole, which is actually supposed to be like the little smile line between the nose and the mouth. And that's even also based off of one of the developers. And as for the playstyle ideas they had for Polar Knight, should he have gotten a campaign, he was going to be very slow but very strong. He would have a dashing shoulder bash, kind of akin to Wario in the Wario Land series. He would be able to shake the earth with a stomp attack that could cause things to fall from the ceiling, be it harmful or beneficial. Due to his large shovel, he would have been able to dig piles in one stroke. But he would have had a gameplay mechanic of staying frosty, where I'm assuming you would have had to regulate your temperature in some way, like not moving too much in a row, staying in the shade or away from fire if possible, things of that nature. And additionally, I forgot, we fought the Phantom Striker last part, the last optional boss in the game. But let's go over his bio. A lone warrior, Phantom Striker appears to those that he deems worthy of challenging him. Light on his feet and wielding a fencing foil, this enigmatic fighter also controls the power of lightning. Always in search of an honorable battle, Phantom Striker may reward those who fare well against his cyclonic charge. As we saw last part, where if you don't lose half your health to him or heal, you get a better reward. In fact, the exact rewards are... Okay, yeah, if you go below half health or you heal, Phantom Striker leaves 10 gems behind with the value of 1 gold each, so 10 gold. But if you defeat him without losing half your health or healing, he leaves 10 gems of 200, so 2,000 gold. That's quite a difference. I don't know why, but this stage to me has always been relatively relaxing in a way, I suppose. I guess it's just because I generally like ice levels more than the average Joe does anyway. Like I said, my biggest hate gimmicks for levels are always going to be darkness and more often than not wind, especially when partnered with a lot of instant kill hazards like spikes in Mega Man or bottomless pits, also like in Mega Man. Though my biggest enemy is still screen crunch. Now the next mechanic of this stage is these floating snow boxes. When you touch them, they fall down at about the speed equal to your own falling speed, and then when they touch spikes, they act as platforms so you can't actively touch the spikes. With that said, you need to make sure that you're slightly above the bottom of them, otherwise you're still gonna touch the spikes and, die. And now we got this weird griffin statue, I suppose. This thing's a bit odd because when you're standing on it, it falls, and when you're not standing on it, it rises, so it's weight-based. But when you strike it, it pukes out a rainbow that acts as a platform. I don't understand where this kind of mechanic would have come from, but it's probably my least favorite mechanic in the game just because keeping yourself near it so that you actually have a platform to stand on and moving it around horizontally and vertically just feels finicky and slow. It's not a very fun mechanic to work around in my eyes, especially if I'm recalling correctly in the speed run, which I haven't even talked about that. That's another trophy in this game. I believe you need to finish the game in like 90 minutes. It is super slow. I hate it. And this was one of my least favorite levels to do in that particular run. Even the next time we see this mechanic after this stage, because most of the mechanics do show up again in the final set of stages, there's a way around that one because you can go above the screen in that room, not so here. And it's annoying and I don't like it. Not one bit. Now, I called Tinker Knight stage, last part, the shortest stage in the game, and what it made up for in that was at least the longer boss fight. This is technically also pretty short, because we're going to get through this and the next night stage in this video. I think it's the only... I don't think it's the only video in the LP we get through only one stage in, but it's definitely only when we get through a main stage, two main stages in. There we go, that's the word. Well, barring the Hall of Champions, but that's not exactly a main level anyway, now, is it? You know, I probably should have remembered through the LP to use the Truffle Chalices a bit more, because the healing is useful. I guess I was just in the mindset of other games I was playing around the time I recorded this and had done LPs of recently, where I just didn't have a way to heal outside of the things that you find in a level. Which is odd, because if I'm recalling correctly, by the time I recorded this, I still hadn't platinumed Yakuza 3? Whereas now, since then, I have platinumed that, Ghost of Tsushima, which is really good if you had to have a PS4 and you haven't gotten it yet, and you like open world games enough. It's real good. Sucker Punch. I think the only time Sucker Punch is arguably thrown in a dud of a game is, depending on who you are, maybe Infamous 2, maybe, and Sly 3, but I like Sly 3. It's my favorite in the series. Either way, the relic for this stage is the War Horn, which clears space around you with a gigantic AoE attack. I want to say it also does like 2 or 3 damage, so it's just one of the most powerful things in the game. With that said, you do have to keep in mind that when you use it, you can't move until the animation ends, and you also jump up a little bit when you use it, so make sure you're not directly below spikes, because I believe that would kill you if you touch them. I like this ability, but I don't use it too much in this particular run, as I just feel like I have other things that are more useful and worth my time, like the Chaos Sphere or the relic from the next stage. Gotta say though, usually ice levels have like one of my favorite songs in the game. Polar Knight's theme's alright. It's far from my favorite. I think it's a bit too ominous for an ice level theme. Ice levels usually have that kind of calming, chilly mentality to them. You like Ice Cap or... Well, Ice Cap and Sonic Adventure, I should note. Or, more or less any Mega Man ice level theme. Like, I love Iceman's theme himself. I guess technically Flashman's the ice level in 3 and 2. Is there an ice level? That Gemini Man. Really, just I prefer my ice levels to have that more relaxed kind of song or pretty. This is neither, and it's the one case of a song in the game I feel not only isn't really fitting to the stage, but just I just don't think I like this song that much. I guess. And you know, I guess to some people this is probably their favorite song. If it is, hey, more power to you. Though it is weird in a strange way. Despite being an ice level, obviously it's more themed in the ship aesthetic. This reminds me oddly of that level in Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, as well as Ritual of the Night, which I still have yet to purchase, and I really should make that a purchase I do soon. Not sure if I want to get the PS4 version or not, though, because I've heard there's some problems with it. Also, these wolves are deceptively annoying enemies because their running speed. You'll very often overestimate it because they're just bumping into things like that. And to the point where when you eventually give them access to you, before you know it, they're immediately in your face and you're just face-tanking ahead. And, well, that's no good. I hate this particular music note to get, by the way. What they want you to do, I believe, is use these dragon enemies to bounce on top of these particular snow blocks. But the timing for it is just kind of intense. And additionally, you need to make sure you attack in midair before you hit the next snow block, because I don't think I've exactly mentioned that about the controls yet. When you pogo off something, you're still in the pogo animation. Even if you're not holding down anymore, you need to actively attack with the shovel blade in order to stop doing that. Be careful on that screen in general, by the way, because it's very easy to misjudge your jump and not hit one of the snow blocks, causing yourself to fall directly into spikes, and that's no good. So, my old friend, the day has finally come. This will be our final duel. Should we not lay down our shovels and part as equals? The Order has no equals. Surely you can recognize power. Join us. You've forgotten our oath. What happened to the proud warrior I knew? No more words. The bitter cold will claim you. Starting off, Propellor Knight's going to be kicking and rolling various snowballs at you, which you can then kick back at him, but he'll eventually charge across the screen and fling them back across the opposite way. Eventually, though, he will jump in the air, and when he lands with his own shovel drop, he'll create spikes out of the ice that you can eventually cover up, but you need to be careful about your decreasing platform space all the same. Additionally, he's the only boss in the game that's smart enough to cover his head so you can't endlessly bounce off of him. I really like his boss fight. I just wish I liked his level more, I suppose is the best way to put it. Because I usually really like ice levels. I don't like this level that much. With that, only one member of the Order of No Quarter remains, and we'll be taking him out in due time. And by due time, I mean 3 minutes before, 2 minutes if even, before we enter the stage. I think there might be a way to skip that animation if you just press the button early, but I just never do it for some reason. With that, let's head back to town so we can do any minor purchases you might still need to do, or in my case, pass in the notes. Let's see here. Oh, you found a cool reception. How about you try penning a manuscript when it's so cold you can't feel your highly dexterous hands? Boy, I live in Massachusetts. I've been through that. I remember the 2008 ice storm, and that was hell, although I got a Transformers animated Sentinel Prime when that was happening because I was young. Either way, it's time for our final stage, the layer Propellor Knight that I don't remember the name of. And we start off with a mechanic right off these electric jellyfish. After a few seconds, they will electrify themselves, and you cannot shovel drop off of them while they're doing so. So be careful of your timing. And given that his name is Propellor Knight, this stage has a lot, and I mean a lot of bottomless pits. With that said, there's quite a number of vertically structured sections in this stage, so if you fall down, it's more than likely not going to be immediate death, because it'll probably just take you back down to the previous room. And we also have fans. When you're at the top of the wind, you can't really exactly rise or fall that high, but when you start at the bottom of a fan, you will rise up and you'll even go above the wind with a good amount of momentum. The only way you can really get around that momentum is by jumping from a high place into the wind, because your momentum will carry you down further into it. With that said, let's go over Propellor Knight. This aerodynamic ace commands the Enchantress's flying machine with the cocksure attitude of a sky pirate. With his heli helmet, he can zoom short distances with ease. Shovel Knight encounters Propellor Knight on top of the aircraft as it zooms through the sky. Earth fights against air in a true battle of elements. Pros: he's a talented fencer, has a mechanical heli helmet, and he's debonair. Cons: he's pretty arrogant, lightweight. He's a lightweight, and he has an outrageous accent. Well, that gives me an idea what voice to give him immediately. Also, beware the mini Propellor Knights, because they are deceptively hard to ignore. If it's not the eel enemies from Treasure Knight stages, I'd say these particular enemies are some of the most annoying in the game, just because they can cover so much area with just one attack that you would not expect on your first playthrough whatsoever. Either way, as for Propellor Knight's potential gameplay ideas, if he ever got a campaign himself, he was going to have a charge jump sort of similar to what is in Super Mario Bros. 2, where you would hold down the jump button to charge your jump and release it to go soaring super high, to the point where you can pull a bit of a DKC 1 and 2, and 3 for that matter, where if you charged the jump and then walked off the stage, like either into a bottomless pit or to a lower section, you could release the jump and still go soaring up. He would also generally just fall slower, so you could potentially maneuver yourself around some strict platforming for other characters with relative ease. He was going to have his standard fencing attack button, but you could charge it down to unleash different types of lunge attacks. And you could also cancel charge attacks into laugh taunts to store them for later. Out of all the characters who didn't get a campaign, I'd say Propellor Knight probably sounds the most interesting to me, because I usually like that kind of use your set jump heights and variables like that to your best advantage. But I'm very happy with the 3 we got. I still think the 3 we got are the most interesting out of the 8 that we could have had, technically 9 or 10. Still a shame. Also, that mini-boss, it bounces up and down while shooting cannonballs out of its and bombs out of its side. But as you can see, like with the main bosses, the Chaos Sphere does not care for how much you like to live. Now, the next main mechanic, as you've seen so far, is cannonballs. You can bounce off them, or just avoid them. You're going to need to bounce off them more often than not to get around the stage design. So be careful. I mean, actually, no, it's the blue jellyfish that electrify themselves. I think the yellow ones just stand there and electrify themselves for a shorter period of time. Well, they don't stand there, but you know what I mean. Alright, now we need to fall into that particular set of fans to make our way over here, because this is where the relic of the stage is, and it's my favorite in the game besides the Chaos Sphere. This is the Propeller Dagger. Soar through the sky, blade first. Now you can reach all sorts of places. This is essentially a dash right out of the Mega Man X series, an air dash in particular. When you press triangle or up and square, you just fly forward about 4, 5, 6 tiles, and you can chain it. Also, don't be like me, go back and get that sparkly right there in the pit, because that is the last music note for the stage that I don't get on this first run through. I ended up having to replay this entire stage to get that, because I missed it like a dumbass, because I figured, it's just going to be a goldfish or a truthful fish. What's the point, right? Oh, you fool. More often than not, if it's a sparkly in a hidden area like that, it's going to be a music sheet. The one time I got tired and stopped doing it is the one time I needed to do it. And God, isn't that just how it is? I wouldn't say it's Let's Play cursed, but that's definitely getting too set into a pattern. But yeah, the Propeller Dagger is super useful, especially as a speedrunner, if you decide to do that, because it allows you to skip so much level design in New Game Plus that it's almost ridiculous. I love this weapon. With that said, I feel it's best gotten first out of these 3 knights, as I think Polar Knight and Tinker Knight have enough gaps in the level design that you can easily make up for it with this thing. Particularly like the auto-scroller in Tinker Knight stage, potentially, or a lot of the rooms with the dragon platform, griffin platform with the pukes out rainbows thing. It's very easy to get around stuff with it. With that said, you still need to be sure of A, your ammo count, and B, your momentum, because when the propeller dagger stops, you fall straight down unless you're holding left and right. So you need to make sure you know where you're going to land, because otherwise you're not going to land where you want to land, and that will more often than not result in demise. Also, a nice little visual detail I like about the backgrounds of the stages in the game. The Tower of Fate, our main goal here, where we're going to fight the Enchantress eventually, slowly gets larger in the background as you progress through stages. And that's just really cool. I love it when games do very minor details like that in the background. Such as the moon changing phases in certain parts of Castlevania. The moon outright getting closer and closer to either a new moon or full moon in the various playthroughs of Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 1 now, I should say, because Curse of the Moon 2 is now a thing, and I'll get to that eventually. I still need to buy the game and play it first, but more about that later. This is the one propeller section that really gives me some anxiety, because I don't like getting this close to spikes willingly. Ugh. I know I mentioned it before, but some people have aquaphobia in games, other people crusherphobia because they don't like small sections. If I see a spike, I start to sweat in a video game. Because I have died to them too many times in Mega Man games. And honestly, probably where I did it the most was maybe Mega Man 1 or 3. Particularly the Neo Arcadia stage in 3, because the screen crunch doesn't exactly work well with you there. Yeah, the Zero games are designed around it, but there's still a lot of times that things can sneak up on you. 1, I think, is still the worst of it, though, with the underground areas and Neo Arcadia. Particularly that climb up that one section is just, uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. Either way, the final mechanic for Propellor Knight stage is wind. But instead of being wind platforming that makes you not jump as far or jump further, which is the type I hate, this is the rare vertical wind that makes you rise and fall with the leaves. I don't mind this. Now, this is the kind of wind I hate. I hate wind that makes you move faster or slower like this. I'm just glad it never gets to the point of being that exactly, because now we need to time ourselves moving left and up with the geometry around us. And honestly, I like this. They made me like a type of wind platforming, and I gotta admit, I gotta give them credit for that. With that said, if you ever pulled like the Super Mario Bros. 2 Lost Levels thing on me, I would hate you. Is that where my hate of wind platforming came from? Mostly. I played that pretty young. Not as young as some other people, because I didn't grow up with, like, New Super Mario Brothers Deluxe. Or Super Mario Brothers Deluxe on Game Boy Color or anything. I didn't play Lost Levels until the Wii Virtual Console, but I played that young enough to the point where it scarred me. With that, it's time for Propellor Knight. Ah, my petite blue friend, the sunset. She is beautiful, no? Get down here and face me, you gyroscopic jester. Oh, so rude. My crew, were they not hospitable? My ship, it was not magnificent? I'm not here to be entertained. I must reach the Tower of Fate. All business, no pleasure. Such a shame. Very well, then. On guard. Propellor Knight bounces all over the place doing lunges with his rapier. With that said, you need to be careful because he's invincible for a large portion of it, but you can use that to your advantage if you hit him at a certain place because you can just clip right through him like that. Eventually, he'll try to flip you onto his propeller blade, in which case he'll shoot you up into the sky and try to impale you directly onto his rapier when you land. About the halfway point of his health, he calls another airship in to destroy parts of the platform, giving you limited space to work with. But if you just place yourself carefully and are decent enough at tracking where you are in the sky, I don't think he's that hard of a boss fight. With that said, if you have trouble with limited space on platforms like this can definitely be a difficult fight. Same with Polar Knight in that regard, now that I think about it. But that's the final of the Order of No Quarter defeated. The only thing that remains in the game in our way is the Tower of Fate itself, but we do have one more Catch Her minigame. I'd argue in terms of getting money, this is the easiest one, though, because barring, I think, the knights they're going to have here, I think the enemies here are very easy to take out with what they give you. Plus, you have the War Horn, which I think will clip through guards. So, yeah, you can just destroy things with no effort. With that said, the War Horn, I forgot to mention this in Polar Knight stage, does take up a whopping 20 weapon ammo, which I think is the most out of any sub-weapon in the game. And also remember, grab your meal ticket on the way out. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 10, we're going to be doing our last-minute purchases and grabbing that music sheet I missed in Propellor Knight stage before heading off towards Endgame. Not quite there yet, but we're getting there. See you guys then.